about to show you part of a 4-minute animation, a cartoon, that was recently banned in a Virginia school district after some parents complained. It uses race as a metaphor, and the purpose of the video is to highlight the history of racial inequality. It's been shown hundreds of thousands of times to school children in the last decade, but after an assembly at the Glen Allen High School near Richmond, some parents complained. They said that it promotes white guilt. Take a look. So that's about a quarter of the video. And the question is, should it be banned? Joining me now is Carol Swain, a law professor at Vanderbilt University, and Benjamin Dixon, host of the political podcast, The Benjamin Dixon Program. Hey, Benjamin, should it be shown?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine why it would be banned. Just because we label it controversial doesn't take away from the fact that there are significant truths being spoken in the video. So absolutely, it should be played. I don't understand why it would be banned.
Benjamin, I talked about this on my radio program on Friday, and I had a number of calls from African Americans who said, I wouldn't want my son or daughter in a classroom where this was being shown because I worry that they would be ostracized.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. They don't want their children to face the fallout from a conversation like this, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have these types of conversations. You know, I think we do more apologizing in America for having conversations about race than we actually apologize for racism in America. So it's kind of an intentionally obtuse time in America where you can be called racist or face racist backlash because you are unpacking some systemic problems that are actually true. There's nothing untrue in this video. So labeling it controversial really is just a means of silencing the conversation.
Carol Swain, what do you think? Should this be shown to school kids across the country?
I'm never in favor of censorship or banning anything. My problem with the video is that it's very misleading, it's dated. I would not want my children to be exposed to that video unless they were in a situation where you had a teacher that understood history and would be able to discuss the biases, because it's clearly biased. There's no way you can attribute everything that happened in America that was tragic to one group of people. That's problematic. It presents all blacks as being poor or disadvantaged and whites as being privileged. We know that's not true. It also doesn't convey the fact that we have had a black president for the last 8 years. We've had 2 black attorney generals. America is not the same as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. We've also had more than 40 years of affirmative action. We cannot attribute all of the problems of black people to white people or to America.
So, Carol, let me give you the perspective of a white guy who lives in suburbia. I have 4 children. I would be thrilled if my 4 children had seen a video like this if it were part of a larger conversation. And then I said to myself, if I were an African-American parent, might I be concerned that my son or daughter would look at this as an explanation or justification as to why, I'll take the race metaphor, I'm in second place, and therefore instead of striving for first place, I'm going to settle into that position. I hope I expressed that clearly, Carol. Respond to it.
I mean, it's clearly a problem. It sends the wrong message to black children. It says you can't because there are all these barriers and roadblocks. And I don't believe that's true of America. I think if you work hard, you can still be successful in America. And it also presents a false image for whites. There are a lot of poor whites And white men are not as privileged as they may have been at one point in history. There's new data to show that middle-aged white men are dying at a faster rate than any other group. And it's through suicide and stress caused factors, but they're the ones now that have a death rate that's very unusual.
Benjamin, take my final 30 seconds and respond.
I think we may be missing the mark simply because we think it's saying all black people and all white people. We actually look at averages in America, and these are some average experiences that African Americans face. Now, I agree this video misses the mark because it casts an economic conversation about generational wealth and leaves it at the conversation about race. In fact, it would have done itself much a greater service if it had unpacked the realities that there are some commonalities, albeit different experiences, but there are commonalities between poor white Americans and poor black Americans, where we need to have a conversation about generational wealth, institutional factors that contribute to the fact that poor people born in poverty are more likely to stay in poverty. That's true for white people as well as African Americans.
All right, I would like to think that we've just contributed to the conversation by airing a part of it and welcoming the two of you. Benjamin, Carol, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
President Obama's passionate speech.